Yo, we're live on Rumble, X, and Twitch, man. What's good with y'all? I was waiting for the YouTube stream. Whew. Yo, and we are live, man. Yo, this is Set, and this is Diamond here. We are up here with the celebrity news, bro. It's about to be a good one. Let's go ahead and get into it. Today, we're going to give you out a complete breakdown of the P. Diddy situation. Shout out to Ken and Son for providing most of the content. Let's go.
Oh my gosh, where do we begin? All right, well, he's changed his name many times over the years. You might know him as Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, Puffy, Puff, P. Diddy, or just Diddy, the D, the I, the D, the D, the Y. Okay, well, there have always been rumors, and quite frankly, I always thought that they were conspiracies because they sounded crazy. First and foremost, rumors that he was gay. Also rumors that he was behind the killing of his quote-unquote best friend, the notorious B.I.G., and also that he had something to do with the killing of Tupac. Well, last year, things got interesting because Combs's ex, her name was Cassandra, she went by Cassie, and she filed a federal lawsuit against him in New York alleging years of assaults. Now, again, they dated for like more than 10 years, so she obviously was very close to him and knew his lifestyle. Her lawsuit contained graphic allegations that he raped her in 2018, that he physically abused her, that he intimidated her, that he made her have sex with male escorts.
Emotional damage!
Also alleged that he blew up another artist's car, his name was Kid Cudi, in order to stop him from seeing Cassie romantically when him and Cassie split up. I mean, again, all of this sounds insane.
And ironically, bro turned out to be bisexual, huh?
If it's true. Well, Kid Cudi thought the accusations were true. He said, yes, that is factually what happened. But of course, Diddy denied those allegations. And he instead came out and said that Cassie was simply trying to blackmail him for $30 million. And by the way, that is plausible, right? We've seen tons of those instances, especially in the era of Me Too. But this one felt a little different because we're like, okay, but she's known you for a very long time. And these allegations are quite weird. But we never got a follow-up there because then he very quickly settled with her for an undisclosed amount. And then even more women started coming out saying they were victims of Diddy. And then it seemed like an avalanche, and he issued a very strong statement condemning them for essentially extortion attempts and trying to murky his name. So again, you don't know what's real, you don't know what's not, until this recent lawsuit. And this one's different, guys. A man named Rodney Jones has come forward to sue Diddy. And this is not your average lawsuit. I will say right now, many lawsuits are in fact frivolous. I have fought and won frivolous lawsuits. This person, however, his name is Rodney Jones. He lived, traveled, and he worked with Diddy as a producer. And he is alleging that he has hours upon hours of recorded footage.
And it's crazy how much people they put in this, from Sean Diddy Combs to Justin, like pretty much his sons, a couple of his assistants. Even his own record label, Love Records.
And pictorial evidence, which has been included in this document to support his claims. And I have to say, these claims seem very credible. Now, to be clear, Rodney, also goes by Lil Rod, is suing Diddy and others, we're going to get to who those others are, for $30 million, claiming that he was subjected to sexual misconduct for the duration of the production process of an album. It is a 70-page lawsuit that has been filed in the Southern District of New York. And he is claiming that while working on the album and living with Combs in New York, California, Florida, other locations, that Diddy repeatedly groped him, touching his, I'm sorry to say this, guys, his anus and his crotch without consent, and attempting to groom him into accepting a homosexual relationship by showing him explicit videos of others in Hollywood. Yes, they have named other artists, claiming that homosexuality was a normal practice in the music industry. He's also claiming that Diddy would walk around the house naked and force him to watch him shower, and is alleging that he went forward and told Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Karam, about this. And Christina came back to him and said, well, you know, Sean will just be Sean. So we're going to go through some of these explosive claims. Again, right at the top, I'm going to make it clear so that I don't get sued that these are all allegations. Everything that I'm going to say after this is an allegation that is being claimed by Rodney in this lawsuit document, which we will include as a link for you guys if you're watching this on YouTube. Let's go through the big claims. Ready? Number one, this is perhaps the biggest claim, is that Diddy and his son murdered someone.
And make sure to like the video, man. We're about to go through the whole allegation from beginning to end, man. Make sure to like the video. Double tap that screen for me. 3 dots at the top. Let's go.
One in plain daylight and got away with it. There's apparently a man that they know, that everyone who works with Diddy knows, that they can call, and they essentially will get everything cleaned up. They're implicating the LAPD in this madness because they produced fake reports. And he's got some real good evidence to back up these claims. He says that one evening during a camp that they were running with several musicians, Mr. Combs and Jay Combs were in a heated conversation with somebody named G. And while this conversation was moved out of the studio and into a restroom that was adjacent to where Jones was sitting, he heard approximately 2 feet away from him, again, Mr. Jones is the producer that's suing him, gunshots suddenly ringing out. He recalls hearing multiple gunshots. Mr. Jones immediately went into a state of shock and fear that he would be shot next. He genuinely believed that he would be shot through the door due to how close he was. After the shooting ended, a crowd gathered around the restroom. When the door finally opened, Mr. Combs and his son exited. G was lying on the restroom floor in a fetal position, holding his stomach and bleeding out of his leg and his hip area. Everyone stood around and looked up at him, frustrated by the lack of aid that was being provided.
And this is the one of many crimes that Diddy's had covered up. But this one's special because he covered it up with his son. Now, allegedly, I think his son shot somebody because of an argument. I think Combs got up in there and was like, what's going on? But he was able to get the LAPD to cover it up, which means the LAPD is in line with the music industry.
Provided.
Scary
Mr.
enough.
Jones, the producer that's suing again, dropped everything, ran
Make sure
to the
like
guy,
the video.
and immediately began placing pressure. As he was applying pressure on his stomach, he realized that G was gushing blood from another area. He decided to lift G up and place him to sit on the toilet, and he asked the crowd to call the ambulance. Now, here is what is interesting. The ambulance does arrive, and Mr. Combs, according to Mr. Jones, Diddy gives strict instructions to inform the police that he had nothing to do with the shooting. He also forced the producer to lie to the police by telling them that G was shot while standing outside of the studio. And the police just believed this, despite the overwhelming evidence that this shooting did not take place outside of the studio and that it instead took place inside near the bathroom. He includes in his lawsuit this photo of the bathroom and we are blurring it here, of the blood.
I mean, so you're pretty much telling me the police wrote the report saying, yeah, he got shot outside and he crawled his bleeding ass to the bathroom in a fetal position, and that's what happened. Really? Of course.
In that bathroom. And then
Make
it is
sure
stunning because he also shows how the media then reported it, right? A fake police report was produced, and then fake headlines were the result. This is CBS News. Man shot outside party at Hollywood recording studio. The key word there is outside. How on earth could the LAPD be implicated in lying? Well, he alleges that there is an individual, again, that they know that they can call to clean up any types of murders. And that individual will make sure the right officers write down the fake police reports and that those are then fed to the media to cover up murder.
So yes, you
The
guys,
second,
cricket cops out here.
Well,
Didn't know.
yeah, well, of course, there's cricket cops in LAPD, and well, Diddy's able to pay these cricket cops off. So yes, the music executive has a payroll for cricket cops, which is a little bit scary if you're a music artist and you think you're protected by the law.
big explosive thing that comes from this document are the allegations that Diddy hosts freak-offs, essentially sexual events to procure blackmail on other people in the industry. That they all come and they have these drug-fused parties with underage boys, with underage girls. And throughout this lawsuit, he names multiple current rappers that have been involved in these parties and are therefore existing under blackmail, right? So if you can suddenly record somebody and they're hooking up with a person that is underage, if you're doing drugs and Diddy has cameras on it, well then Diddy owns you. Which leads me to think, what even is gangster rap? It's a question that I have been asking a lot. It seems to me that there is something intentional.
We got 300 plus of y'all in here, man. Let's go ahead and double tap that screen. Let's like the video. Let's get it pushing the algorithm. Let's get more people in here for a good conversation. Or you can go ahead and click the 3 dots up there in the corner to like the video. Appreciate the support. Let's go.
that they are intentionally feeding us filth via the media. And I wonder if a lot of these artists are existing within this blackmail ring. And also, where have we heard this before? Oh, yes, of course, Jeffrey Epstein, who was bizarrely protected. He was clearly an asset of not just the CIA, but also potentially the Mossad, very much involved with the Mossad over in Israel.
Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein was protected by way more powerful people. I mean, he was protected by the Secret Service of the Israeli forces, like the Mossad. Yeah, he was up. He was like, if Diddy was here, Epstein was like up here.
And he too had so much access, so much wealth, and he got away with it for years, procuring what very clearly is blackmail on politicians. So what we are recognizing is that this ring also exists within Hollywood. Explosive allegation number 3 was that there's even a Ghislaine Maxwell, so to speak, a madame, and that is the other woman that is listed in this lawsuit, his chief of staff, Christina Karam. I don't know how journalists aren't interested in figuring out who this woman is. Her job, as alleged in this lawsuit, was to keep Diddy high. I'm going to tell you what this lawsuit says explicitly about her. According to Mr. Jones, during the 13 months he lived and traveled with Diddy, he witnessed defendant Karam openly order her assistants to keep Mr. Combs high off of gummies and pills.
Pretty much a high Diddy is a dangerous Diddy, and they always want Diddy dangerous, apparently.
Defendant Karam required all employees, from the butler, the chef, to the housekeepers, to walk around with a pouch or a fanny pack filled with cocaine, GHB, ecstasy, marijuana gummies, and Tukey. I don't know if I'm saying that right. That's a pink drug.
Tootsie. Think about when they say it in the song, Tootsie. Yeah, there's a reason. Apparently, it's a nice drug that all these rappers pass around to themselves, their women's, and they engage in either homosexual actions or very, very freaky sex parties.
That is a combination of ecstasy and cocaine. It was important to the defendant Karam to have Mr. Combs' drug of choice immediately ready whenever he asked for it. She also ordered, allegedly, sex workers and prostitutes for Mr. Combs and would order the distribution of ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms to Mr. Combs and his celebrity guests who were present on his rented yacht and in his homes throughout LA, New York City, and Miami. And he alleges that he was also forced to keep that drug in a pouch on him at all times against his will. Again, this is explosive. He even lists everybody in the ring. He says that it is his Diddy's son, Justin, that solicits the prostitutes and the underage girls and the sex workers, allegedly, for these freak-offs. He also lists Stevie J, who recruits the sex workers and attends and participates in the freak-offs, and another young man named Brendan Paul, who works as Mr. Combs' mule. He acquires and distributes all of the drugs and the guns. Again, we won't have time to go through everything in this document, but I encourage you guys to read it because it is stunning. And yes, Christina Karam apparently even instructs them to mix those drugs into the liquor when these women are invited over. So why is the media not interested in this story? Well, here is explosive allegation number 4 coming from this lawsuit. That the person who sits at the top of this ring potentially is Sir Lucian Grange. He is the CEO of Universal Music Group. He is also being sued. He has also been named, as well as Universal Music Group. And he is, as a fact, one of the most powerful men in Hollywood. He runs, again, Universal Music Group, which is huge. Well, Rodney, the producer, is alleging that when Lucian would visit Diddy's house, the two of them would go into Diddy's bedroom and be locked up in there for hours. What does that mean? What are we supposed to think of that? By the way, I looked into Lucian, obviously, because I was fascinated by this document.
Thank you for letting me know.
And I find it really bizarre that he completely changed his name. He used to be Michael G., the son of Cecil G., who was a huge tailor in London. I found that in this old article, The Guardian, the headline is "Forgotten and Overlooked: How Jewish Designers Dressed the Beatles and Changed Global Fashion." And in this article, there's a picture of Lucian. He was then
Yeah, Lucian Grange. Now you're gonna hear this man all throughout the lawsuit and other things. Now this may be the only music executive that actually goes down, but there are more that need to go down. But Lucian Grange is the CEO of Universal Studios, and this is the only Jewish Jewish music exec that we can kind of connect to Diddy right now. This is one of the reasons why I think Diddy might be Epstein in jail.
Again, Michael G.
One of the reasons.
He's sitting with his father, Cecil G. And it's just bizarre that also his father changed his name. In the article, it tells you that his father used to be Sasha Goldstein. So Sasha Goldstein became Cecil G., who gave birth to Michael G., who is now Lucian Grange. I mean, totally bizarre rabbit hole if you guys want to look into it. I just thought it was weird. I did a cursory search and found all of that. Perhaps most crucial, though, in the lawsuit is that unbeknownst to Lucian, Diddy also has a ton of hidden cameras all throughout his house, including in his bedroom, which would perhaps suggest that the blackmail runs both ways. Maybe he also has blackmail on Lucian Grange. Again, I don't know. I'm just telling you what's in this lawsuit and what we can derive from it if these allegations are true. And again, the fact that there are so many photos in this document at least proves that he does have evidence of some sort. Which brings us to number 5, and this is pretty explosive, that we can garner that Cat Williams was right. If you don't know who Cat Williams is, he is the comedian. He's been a comedian for a very long time, and he always just seemed like the funny guy in Hollywood, the funny guy amongst Black America. And last year, people were wondering whether or not he was crazy because he went on somebody's show and said that there was a ring in Hollywood. He actually named Diddy explicitly. He implied that Diddy was a gangster and that he had something to do with bizarre sex parties. Well, now Cat Williams is on Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan podcast, and he is trying to signal to the world that people in Hollywood, that Hollywood altogether was built as a psychological weapon, so to speak. Take a listen to Cat Williams in his own words.
Hollywood is not really there to entertain you. Like, that's great that that happens, but propaganda is something that is important to all civilizations.
And those movies are successful, and so they continue this relationship, and you become a bit of a propaganda arm for the government. And in turn, they don't with you.
That's what makes information so powerful is, you don't care how people feel about the ritual. It's about does following the ritual work. Yeah.
And yeah, everybody now, if you ever watch Hollywood Undead, you do see that these orgies have always been some type of satanic ritual that the Hollywood elites has been using to, I guess, gain more status or more power, unbeknownst to them that they're letting in, evil entities into themselves of what they're going to do to commit evil. Now, I know I'm taking a little bit left field, but this is kind of what Cat Williams was getting into when he says that, there's some real satanic stuff going on, demonic things going on in the music industry, entertainment industry as well.
You can fool yourself into thinking there isn't one, but the evidence will be clear. So like when I be like, oh, these guys are wearing dresses. Everybody's like, oh, he keeps talking about people wearing dresses. No, it's not.
That is a weird thing.
It's not like that. Look at it from a different way. Look at it. Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully.
I mean,
so maybe that's the answer to why the media seems to be burying the story. You can't find it anywhere. Maybe it's because, a lot of them are implicated. This is the case of the dog that is not barking right now. It suggests to us that our media is definitively run by some sort of a gang that has amassed a ton of power and wealth via sexual blackmail. Again,
through a gang. Is either the Italian mafia or the Jewish mafia. One of these mafias got a hold, had a hold on Hollywood, and it kind of got a hold on the music industry. You pick which one.
Keep hearing this over and
Let's
over
see
again.
if you know the answer.
At what point are we going to accept that this is true? When we wonder why our media is in lockstep lying to us. He's talking about a ritual where they don't even care. It's performative. They're going to keep wearing men wear dresses until we accept that this is the new thing.
Emasculation.
He is implying that Hollywood
until we start thinking it's
intentionally
okay.
was sent to make it so that we would accept the trans
Now we
agenda,
did.
which is now everywhere. It wasn't here, now it's everywhere. And of course, if you think about the intelligence agencies potentially being involved, that they are in lockstep.
Now, some of y'all that don't know, intelligence agencies intentionally use pedophiles and gay men to put them in high positions in government and in certain businesses so they can go ahead and control them. Because who were the easiest people to control back then? Well, the pedophiles and the gays. Well, even today, they still use the pedophiles.
With our policing, like the
Believe it or
LAPD
not.
at least is implicated in this as we understand it. If they are in lockstep with also journalists, well, then you have a case of what we recognized during COVID. It very much seemed like people were being sent to us to tell us things that we just knew was not true, but they were going to keep saying it until it was. So I want you to deeply consider that plausibility, that there is a ring that is operating. It's almost, to me, the only thing that makes sense. It's the only thing that adds up. There's just been so much obvious lying that is happening in the mainstream media. There has just been so much in terms of the demonic and overtly sexual agendas that are being packaged for children. And I have said this for a while, and it's very clear to me that we are all being groomed as a society to accept pedophilia. That they're just going, this is totally fine. That seems to be coming down the pipeline. It's clear that there are politicians that are passing pieces of legislation through to support this perverted agenda. It's clear that the celebrities are supporting a perverted agenda. The music makers, well, maybe every single one of them, these individuals, are being blackmailed. Again, I think that is the only thing that makes perfect sense. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I talk about preborn a lot on my show.
Now, that was pretty much the opening to this whole Diddy situation. Was her pretty much just going like, well, lawsuits with Cassie. Everybody been talking about Diddy being gay. Well, but we didn't know that he was abusive and gay. Those are two different things now. Like, gay and abusive if gay is two different things right there. Like, hold on now. Let's see here. Wait. Did it just go back on me? Did you see what happened there? Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Hold on here, making sure I got everything set up right for y'all. Let's see here. All right, here we go.
Then talk to a precious metal is absolutely crazy. Full stop. What if I told you guys that it is about to get even crazier, that there is directly a link to Michael Jackson's death? And I want to be clear that when everything was going on with Michael Jackson, the lawsuits, his death, I thought that we were in full conspiracy theory territory when people were saying that Michael Jackson was killed. I actually know a lot of people that are in the industry who believe that Michael Jackson was killed, and I just thought, it just sounds too whacked out to believe that somebody intentionally killed Michael Jackson. Of course, why would they do that? And also, I was believing the media. The media was extensively saying every single day that he was a pedophile, even though he factually won his case. I allowed my image of Michael Jackson certainly to be corroded by the media throughout that time period. I will fully confess that. Now, I want to remind you, before we get back into Michael Jackson, what we learned in the Diddy documents, just to very quickly recap. Well, if you read through them, again, these are all allegations, but you will come out of it understanding that there is allegedly some sort of a blackmail ring that is operating throughout Hollywood, and that artists that are producing music are actually being controlled via being induced into drugs at parties, and then what takes place is they're being recorded, and sometimes they're being recorded while they are in committing sexual acts with minors. And something that we also saw in these docs is that these parties, at least a lot of them, are taking place in the Virgin Islands, which again just makes you go, what's happening here? Because Jeffrey Epstein, obviously his home, or he owned an island that was just off the coast of St. Thomas. So we hear that again. I also mentioned
Yeah, something about these islands, man. It's like somebody needs to start sweeping these islands for kids and all that good stuff. Because at this point, they're using these islands for evil, and we kind of just ignoring it.
jogging your memory about the Bitcoin millionaire who, right before his death, found accidental drowning, even though he was fully clothed and had his wallet in his pocket, tweeted that the CIA and the Mossad were running a blackmail ring in the Virgin Islands. Something else that we learned in the Diddy lawsuit was that the media and the authorities are complicit. So the ring has real power, not imagined power. Again, I am using the word alleged because this person, despite having, video evidence and he has presented photographic evidence, this has not yet gone through the court system. And so we can't say that it's entirely true. And I'd say the biggest point that we took away from these Diddy docs was that this ring, if you believe it exists, can and will murder people to protect themselves. And he intimated this event that happened allegedly at a recording studio where Diddy and his son allegedly shot someone, and it was covered up by the LAPD and then the media. All right, so within those docs, and this is where it gets relevant, there is one man that is named as being the person that can do the cleanups, right? This is the guy that you are supposed to call if you get into any sort of a scenario.
Man, they got a Better Call Saul person, but he ain't no lawyer. He's a cleaner. And then, man, make sure y'all like the video, man, on the way in, bro. We got 2,000 of y'all plus in here. Make sure to go ahead and double tap that screen and 3 dots up there in the corner, man. We appreciate the support. If you want to engage with the chat, man, super chat a question or a comment, $1 and up. Appreciate you.
So in these docs, it says Mr. Combs instructs his staff to always contact Mr. Muhammad, that is Fahim Muhammad, if they are ever pulled over by the police in Miami or California.
Fahim Muhammad.
And upon information.
Remember this name, Fahim Muhammad, okay? Remember Fahim Muhammad, because this guy, well, he's kind of, it's cold. It's kind of cold. I ain't even gonna lie. Like, come on, you got a cleaner, like in the movies, like, that person that pulls up with the dead bodies over the floor, and the next thing you come in, the room is completely spotless. Is like, that's kind of cool.
Information and belief. This is regarding the shooting that took place at Chalice Recording Studios. Again, he is alleging that Diddy and his son shot someone. And after that shooting, the documents say explicitly that Mr. Muhammad spoke with the LAPD after G was shot at the recording studio. The LAPD was in the recording studio and witnessed the blood in the restroom, and they went with the bogus claim that the shooting of G occurred outside of the studio. This was all thanks to Mr. Muhammad's connections within law enforcement. So again, what we are seeing there is that you call this guy and this guy will make it disappear, and the media will report whatever the incident is in a capacity that covers up the crime, allegedly. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The cleanup guy, Mr. Fahim Muhammad, was also on the scene when Michael Jackson died. So I want to introduce you to and allow you to listen to Ian Carroll. He's an independent journalist that is investigating everything that is going on, and he explains that connection that Fahim has with Michael Jackson. Take a listen.
So this new lawsuit just came out that shows tons of evidence that P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, has been running a sexual blackmail operation very much like Jeffrey Epstein, but in the rap and music industry for basically 30 years. And in that lawsuit, we learned that his head of security while he's running the sexual blackmail ring is this guy named Fahim Muhammad, who before working for Diddy was the head of security for Michael Jackson when he was only 21. And he was one of the first people on the scene when Michael Jackson died. And before we go to Michael Jackson,
if you don't know, a lot of people believe that Michael Jackson was unalived because, he was trying to buy up Sony. He had the catalog of the Beatles. And it all makes sense because when the man died, these people who faked his signature, who said he signed this paper when he was actually somewhere else, got almost everything, got almost all of his assets, including his stock in Sony and the catalogs to the Beatles.
Most important part of the Diddy case to bring across is the fact that the record executives at the very top knew what P. Diddy was doing. They were attending the parties with underage girls where they were spiking drinks. They were deeply involved in Diddy's personal life, and all evidence points to them supporting his operation, or at the very least turning a blind eye to it.
So yes, this is obviously huge. It's also potentially terrifying. And now, if you want to be rational and use the rational side of your brain, you just go, okay, well, this could just be a coincidence, right? Fahim Mohammed, he is in security. And yes, he obviously is high up in security. He was providing security to Michael Jackson. He happened to die on his watch. Big deal, right? Big deal. Well, I think that would lead us to the question of who exactly is Fahim Mohammed, because that's kind of a big first job to have. You're 21 years old and you're protecting the king of pop. What exactly are his qualifications? Let's go back to Ian Carroll and his reporting.
And now, here's the best part. Check this out. This is in all of his bios, by the way, but we're pointing it out now. In 2008, Fahim graduated from Sacramento State University with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Administration with a concentration in real estate and marketing.
Whoa, how the hell?
Okay. Do you realize what's wrong with that yet? Anything coming to mind? When did Michael Jackson die? June 25th, 2009. Jackson died from cardiac arrest caused by a propofol and benzodiazepine overdose, caused by his doctor, apparently. Hold up. Hold the phone. Pause. Why is a dude who just graduated college last year with a business and real estate degree the head of security for the king of pop, for Michael Jackson, the most famous musician of all time?
Yeah, that is remarkably suspicious. And if we had a media that was interested in actually presenting the truth and not just propagandizing on behalf of the state, they would probably explore and look deeper into who this character is. But of course, that's not what the media does. Instead, they are meant to convince people of certain narratives. And like I said in the past, I've been a victim to that. I was obviously very young when everything was going on with Michael Jackson, and I believed the media, which is why I was kind of stunned to kind of go back and revisit the Michael Jackson case. And Ian has extensively unpacked that, revealing, and I did not know this, maybe perhaps because the media wasn't interested in telling us the end result. But yes, the FBI raided Michael Jackson's home. They poured through hours upon hours of the video footage that he had, other materials, documents that were in his house, trying to find this connection to Michael Jackson and potential child abuse. And what ended up being the result was that they could not find a single shred of proof that Michael Jackson had abused any children. And yet, despite that, we kind of, bro, imagine beating the case, but getting the results of you're guilty. So he didn't go to jail, but when he went out into the public opinion said he was guilty, and everybody treated Michael Jackson as if he was guilty, and he never did no time for the crime that we was, making fun of him for. Imagine all these Michael Jackson pedo jokes we done had over the years. And some of us, honestly, bro, they made so many jokes about it to the point where we thought he was guilty. When I found out that he wasn't guilty, I was like, why are we making all these jokes about the man? And if you're liking the video, man, make sure to double tap that screen, like the video. If you want to send in a question or a comment, just send in a super chat, $1 and up. We appreciate your support. Media convinced us that he was a pedophile, or maybe they didn't convince you, but they definitely did a good job convincing me that Michael Jackson was a pedophile. And to be clear, maybe it's perhaps the lack of evidence that was ever uncovered. Michael Jackson was found not guilty of all of the charges that were brought against him. But that didn't stop the media's obsessive attacks against him. They still wanted people to believe that this man was a bad individual. And so they shifted their claims and they started revealing in so many articles, so many front page news pieces were written to tell the masses that Michael Jackson was a raging anti-Semite. It is a fact, by the way, that Michael Jackson did keep a list of people in the industry that he said were his enemies, okay? On that list were people that all happened to be Jewish. So it was lawyer Gloria Allred, music exec Tommy Mottola, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, you may have heard of him, and I'm going to mention him later, Israeli illusionist Uri Geller, and also Michael Jackson's former manager Dieter Weisner.
Now, hold on now. Michael Jackson had a list of hate full of Jewish names. Now, is either my boy was a little anti-Semitic or he knew what was really going on? One of the two.
Clear, it was Dieter himself that revealed that Michael Jackson had this list. But he says that Michael Jackson was just paranoid, that Michael Jackson thought that these industry people were all colluding to try to ruin his life and to take over his life. And again, that was just Michael Jackson being crazy and being a raging anti-Semite.
Jesus.
Well, Ian Carroll also investigates those claims as well. Take a listen.
And yes, Jackson did say that the Jews are, probably referring to the Jews in the music industry, are like leeches and that they took everything from them and that they did it on purpose. But when you look into those allegations or those insults, you realize that because of his will that was probably fake and filed right before his death. So the will was signed on July 7th in Los Angeles by 3 witnesses. But Jackson's family pointed out that he was in New York that day, and there's video proving it. So they changed their story. But the witnesses definitely saw it, and it was just in New York. So anyways, because of this will, John Branca was put in charge of his estate, which included his net worth of $230 million, but far more importantly, his 50% share of Sony ATV worth $750 million. Yes, he was taking on Sony. He was going after the hand that feeds him. And when you look into John Branca, in 2003, Jackson fired Branca because he was siphoning money out of Jackson's accounts in collusion with Sony Music CEO Tommy Mottola and funneling it through a bunch of offshore accounts in the Caribbean. John Branca is Jewish, and Tommy Mottola is also Jewish.
Wow. Did you guys know that? Did you guys know any of that? Because I certainly didn't. I didn't realize that this was a conflict at the end of Michael Jackson's life, that suddenly they were alleging that he signed a new will and handed everything over to the very people that he was fighting, the very people that he was saying were colluding to take things from him, ended up, in the end, taking things from him, despite...
They stole my man's assets, bro. They stole his legacy because he caught on to what they were doing to him. And if they were going to do it to anybody, it'd be Michael Jackson, because, bro, let's be real. He was the biggest money pot in the music industry for like generations, to be honest. Like, bro, come on, it's Michael Jackson.
Man, they killed Michael Jackson.
Despite their remarkable mistake, saying that he signed this new will in a place that he simply wasn't at. So yes, Michael Jackson's estate was transferred over to specific individuals who happened to be Jewish. So what do we make of all of this? What do we make of all this? What do you think about all of this? Well, I'm going to be honest with you that these claims keep coming up too often in Hollywood for me to be comfortable with it, right? We saw this, obviously, it's not just now the Diddy lawsuit, it's not just now Michael Jackson. We also have seen these claims with Kanye West, notoriously, obviously, when he tweeted out, I'm about to go DEFCON 3 on some Jews, and the media freaked out, and people in the Jewish community were understandably very scared, not knowing what he meant. And I very much abstained from speaking much about the issue because people were so emotional that people couldn't hear, even if I had shared, and even when Kanye did share that he was speaking about specific people in Hollywood that he believed were coming after him and were trying to control him. He actually named some of those individuals. He shared personal text messages of a friend of his, a personal trainer to the stars, who again happens to be Jewish, who was threatening to put him in the hospital and to drug him against his will. Harley Pasternak is...
Boy, that man wild. I mean, if somebody told me, yo, you're either gonna cut the bullshit you talking about, or I'm gonna put you on meds and put you in a psych ward. I mean, like, dog, pull up and do it by force, please. I dare you. That'd have been my exact message.
Is his name, and the media barely reported on those text messages that he shared publicly because obviously he was enemy number one. All right. And here's what else I will tell you. When that Kanye situation went down, I was being threatened by a person named Rabbi Shmuley, person that Michael Jackson put on his enemy list, a person that I had never heard of, was threatening me and saying that unless I came out and said things explicitly against Kanye, he would effectively ruin my life. He said that he would take out a front page ad and smear me as an anti-Semite. And it wasn't just him, it was also his daughter. They were messaging me saying, don't mess with Jews. Very bizarre stuff, and they have not stopped, to be clear. And
which
him
is
and
harassment.
his daughter have consistently pulled clips from this show, taken them out of context, and tried to convince Jewish people that I hate them.
Candace Owens is gripped with a poisonous, almost pathological hatred of Jews. It's actually become very serious. It's actually almost frightening. When you see a woman like Candace Owens blood libeling the Jewish people, by the way, Candace Owens is losing it.
Wait.
Her anti-Semitism goes by the day.
There is something really, truly wrong with.
And, you know, this is where Candace kind of goes in on her, well, her and Rabbi Shmuley got it in for each other. If you haven't seen that Piers Morgan with her and Rabbi Shmuley on the one-on-one, well, you don't know too much. You don't know too much because that boy do not like her at all. I mean, man, if anybody ain't like nobody, it's Rabbi Shmuley and Candace.
Black hatred is real.
It's there. It's there. It's definitely there.
So it's pretty obvious there's some sort of a gang operating in Hollywood, and there always has been one. And it's also pretty obvious that the mainstream media is basically just falling over themselves to hide that glaring obvious fact because they are part and parcel of that gang. Hence the reason they are oddly quiet